we got a lot of books to return. So I got my little man here helping me putting all the books back. I'm not going in this time around. You're doing a great job with not going back in to the library. You're doing a good job. Usually we get to go back into the library. I'm doing a good job returning. Let me help them here. So we just returned the books, all of our library books, and like I said, we did not get down to get more books, which is usually what we do. We go in and return our books and then get some fresh library books, but we didn't do it this time because we're in the middle of some transition. Yeah, so this is going to be the month of digital reading, apparently, for me at least, maybe for my kiddos too. So let me share with you in a little bit what I have read so far for September, and then if we finish any more books, we'll add that on into this reading vlog. It's not a reading vlog, maybe just a reading update thingy. Okay, all right. Okay, so here is some of the digital books that I have already read for the month of September. And I'm actually surprised because at the time of filming, it's only September 8th, and I've apparently read 4 books already this month. So, yay! The first book that I finished reading, I think I started this one in August, so I've completed it in September, was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I know this was been talked about and discussed and inside out and all the things already, but I put it on hold at my library. I use the Libby and the Hoopla app. I have 2 separate cards. So it was on one of those apps and it finally came up because it had an incredibly long hold list, as do a lot of the books I have on hold on digital hold. So I did read that in digital format, and that I read very quickly because I wanted to know the story. I just needed to know the ending of it, and that happens a lot with me when I get into especially fiction books. I want to know the story, I want to know the ending, and so I kind of flew through that one. That one I believe I read over, like I started it in the evening during the week, and then I got to finish it so quickly within a couple of days because the weekend hit and my husband was home. And so, yeah, it's not great that I was on my phone reading a book for so long, but that's how I got to finish it so fast. But that book has been talked about over and over again. The next digital book that I read was Long Live the Pumpkin Queen. I didn't even realize that this was out. I don't even know when it came out. I'm guessing maybe it's fairly new. I'm hoping it is, but I think it was a suggestion on one of the reading apps, either Hoopla or Libby. And so I was able to check it out on there, and it follows the story of Sally from The Nightmare Before Christmas, Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas, and I just was excited to revisit the world again. It tells a little bit more about the backstory of Sally as you get later into the book. It doesn't enter with that. And then it tells how Sally is adapting or not adapting to her new role as the Pumpkin Queen and what ensues with that. So I did think this story was interesting to go back and revisit the world of The Nightmare Before Christmas. I wouldn't say it was an absolute can't put down book. It was good. It was okay. I don't do a lot of star ratings, but if I give it a star rating, I would say like a 3.5, which doesn't mean that it's bad. It just wasn't super great. Ugh, I feel really bad saying that, but it was good. It was good. We'll leave it at that. It was good. The next one that I read, I actually was just looking for I'm doing a reading challenge, a year-long reading challenge, and I didn't want to get too far behind. I am pretty far into it, but I'm doing if you watch any other book videos on here, you probably heard me talk about it. Flourish and Blat's 2022 Harry Potter Challenge. This is the Ordinary Wizarding Levels or Owls Reading Challenge, and you have a book, you have the various different classes, and then you have prompts for each of those classes, like a couple of prompts for each of those classes. One of the prompts was to read a book with a yellow cover. Sorry, I keep looking down at my phone. One of the prompts is to read a book with a yellow cover. I didn't think this would be difficult, but I started this year 2 books with a yellow cover and didn't finish them. I thought before this year that I didn't DNF a lot of books, but apparently I do, especially library books, because I'm like, I gotta turn it back in anyways. I'm not gonna read this. So I DNF'd both books, and one was a digital book, and I was having a hard time reading digital books at that time. we're in a period of transition, and so I probably already explained all this to you. Anyways, so I was having a hard time at that time reading digital books. I had the luxury to sit and actually read physical books. So one book I didn't finish because of that, and then the other book I didn't finish because I think I just didn't care for it, or wasn't jiving with it. So I looked on the digital, I looked on the ebooks, and I found one called Fitness Junkie, and it sounded interesting to me. This is a story about a successful businesswoman whose partner and best friend, business partner and best friend, or so-called best friend, tells her that she's fat essentially, and that she can't come back to work until she loses 30 pounds. And they are in a business, they're in a high-end bridal, they make high-end bridal dresses. Is that the right way to say it? Bridal dresses? Wedding dresses? Wedding dresses. They make high-end wedding dresses. And so their appearance is everything. And then she has just gotten too chubby for him and the company. And so he tells her, take some time off until you lose weight. So then it entails the adventures from there and kind of her journey to lose the weight, but also kind of finding herself and to me, her backbone in this story. I liked seeing the evolution of the main character find her backbone and figure out that this so-called best friend doesn't have her best interests at heart. It was interesting to see how we can mask other people's flaws when we just are craving that friendship or not wanting to see the hurt that is actually being caused. So that played into it as well. That was a good light read, and I would recommend it if you're looking for a quick, easy, light read. That's all that I've read for now. The book that I just started, I did start another ebook, and that one is a Pho love story, and that is by Lone Lee, I think. I'll put it up. I just started that one, so I'm only a couple chapters in. It is a little bit slower for me to start. I think though, because there's just so much happening though right now. But that is why I wanted to have that mental break of a lighthearted read, so that in the evening hours as I am trying to go to sleep, I know being on a screen is not the best for you, but I figured reading a book on the screen was a good kind of meeting myself in the middle. I don't know. Anyways, I figured it was better than videos and things like that. So, or scrolling through social media, because that was just raising my anxiety. So I have the book. I wanted to pick out a lighthearted book to be reading along to kind of quiet my mind for the rest of the evening. So far, from what I can gather, it is about dueling restaurants. There are two restaurants. I think they're across the street from each other. That's the hand movement here. And there's a young man that works at one of their family restaurants, and across the street there's a young girl that works at another family restaurant. Of course, they're rivals, and we can only guess what's going to happen there. So that's where we're started at. This book is not going to be, I don't think I'm going to add it to the challenge at all. I did have like a long list of library books that I wanted to get, but that's not going to happen just yet. Maybe next month. So that's where we're at with September reads. Let's see if I get to finish this book. Okay, so I finished three. I finished 3 books since the last time I spoke with you. We are like about halfway through the month now, and I finally finished up Uninvited by Lisa TerKeurst. I was so close to the end I didn't even realize it, but I finished this up, which is great because as you can see, I haven't packed up my bookshelf here, so that can go in there too. Also, I started tabbing my book. So I started tabbing it, but as you can kind of see, this last tab here, I packed up my tabs. So this is actually a piece of washi tape, which may make some of you cringe that I put that in my book, but that's what I used for the last tab. So my first adventuring and tabbing a book was just that, an adventure. I packed up my tabs, so. Anyways, this book ended up being really great. I know that I've spoken about it before, and I had it like, I picked it up and put it down, picked it up and put it down, and then I finally restarted it like 2 months ago. I think it took me like 2 months to read. There were some parts that I felt like were slower than others, but then there were other parts that just spoke so deeply to me, hence why I started tabbing. I was underlining and things, and just, there were some parts where I was just like, wow, that's really good. So one in particular, it is talking about spending time with the Lord, and she says, it's not about you becoming anything. Your soul was made to simply be with me. That's with Christ, not with the author. And the more you are with me, the more you will stop fearing what the world might take from you. And that to me really spoke, and it was great. She also says, rejection never has the final say. Rejection may be a delay or distraction or even a devastation for a season, but it's never a final destination. I'm destined for a love that can't ever be diminished, tarnished, shaken, or taken. With you, Jesus, I'm forever safe. I'm forever accepted. I'm forever held, completely loved, and always invited in. That was just so great. That's actually the ending. So I just thought that, yeah, it wrapped up just so nicely and so well. I'm glad that I finished reading this. It was a really, like I said, parts were a little slower for me, but then other parts just hit so deeply. And so I really liked this, and I am glad that I finally finished reading it. I did finish A Pho Love Story. It was good. It was, it started out slower for me, but also, like I mentioned, I think it's just because of the season of life we're in. It was hard for me to dive in, but it took some turns that I was not expecting, and it just made the story that much more interesting. I liked the characters. I liked watching how they were kind of trying to find their own voice, and at the same time making their parents proud of them and being respectful, and that was really well written. Both families do own restaurants, so I found myself like craving a lot of food while reading it. I don't know if I'm the only one that does that, but the story all in all was really great, and I really enjoyed reading it. I'm glad that I picked that up virtually from the library. Earlier this year, as I was in the library, I just kind of browsed the shelves, and I like to see what kind of piques my interest. And I'm so glad that this book piqued my interest, In Search of a Prince, because it was such a great story. I don't know that if I did a review on that, but if not, I'm sure you could search around and find one. It was such a great book. I did not realize that she wrote a second book to it. And so I think it was like a recommendation on one of my reading apps. But the second book is called To Win a Prince, and this one follows her best friend. If you've not read the first book, I will try not to, I think I can pretty much sum up the second book without giving too many spoilers, but the second book follows her best friend. It follows a woman who is in the fashion industry, and she is assigned someone to work with who is basically doing community service for some crimes he's committed. And it's a redemption story in the man, but also I think the way that Toni writes her faith and the faith of her characters is so beautiful and so realistic, the way that you can hear their prayers and the way they talk to God. I just really, really enjoy it. I am on a search for more of her books. Unfortunately, I don't think that my libraries have any, so I'm probably going to do a search for more books by her, just because I am truly falling in love with her writing style, and I just feel like for me this was such a hidden gem. I maybe like one of the last to hear of her books that I'm so excited that I have, because I'm anxious to try some of her other books and read them out. Clearly, I'm not going to get any books until things calm down around here, but I am glad that I picked up To Win a Prince. I read that book in like 2 days. Now, granted, I was not feeling well. I think I just had like this stress-induced cold that I give myself, so I was in bed for like a day and a half, and that's when I read the book. And I'm so glad that that book was there to keep me company, because like I said, it was a really great read. I think I rated it 4.5 stars. I'm still new to the star rating system, because I just I'm like, I really, really like the book, or I don't. And this year I'm finding if I don't, I'm just DNFing it and moving on. So I really did like this book. I'm not quite sure why I didn't do full 5 stars. I don't know. I may go back and change it. But that was a great read. If you're looking for a new author, or if you've not read her, then I guess she would be a new author to you. I would definitely suggest picking up those books and checking if your library has them, because mine did. But if you can afford to get it on your shelf, if that's in your budget, I would definitely do that too. In all honesty, before I pack these books, I kind of want to pick one off the shelf and have one. I just don't know if that's the wise thing to do, because you know, in the middle of moves, you're like, one more thing to lose if it's not packed. I don't know. We'll see. I have about 16 more days of the month, 15, 16 more days of the month. So let's see if I get anything else read. Okay, we are right smack in the middle of our move. We're actually, I hope we're winding down from it. It went from being the shortest to the longest, but that's not what you're here for. Let's talk about what I finished up reading. I know that it's echoey. We've got boxes. I'm sorry, but let me update you. I first realized that I didn't tell you about the 4th book that I had finished at the beginning of the month. It was called By Your Side by Casey West, and it is a young adult book. It was a lighthearted romance, so no spice. It's about 2 teenagers who get locked into the library overnight. And of course, this library, I don't know, doesn't have any landlines or security, so nobody can find them for the whole evening. It follows Autumn and Dax, and Autumn is, I wouldn't say she comes off as uber popular, but she's got her group of friends, and they are supposed to go away for the weekend, but they've stopped up at the library first to work on a project. And of course, Autumn somehow gets locked into the library overnight and then discovers that there is also another person stuck in the library with her, and that is where Dax enters. Dax also goes to school with her, but he's kind of a rebel. People don't know much about him, and so when you don't know much about a person, clearly you just make up rumors about them. So it's about finding out a little bit of what's true, what's not, a little more of Dax's story, and Autumn finding out a little bit more about herself and her friends that she keeps. So I thought that this was a really great, like I said, it's meant to be a lighthearted read. It is a quick read. I can't remember how many pages it was, because I did read the e-version of it. So that's, so it's a little, the page count can be a little off, but according to Storygraph, the book is 352 pages. So not too long. I thought that it hit on a lot of good points and a lot of good, it was a really good storyline. I thought that watching the characters reveal more of who they are was really well written. I ended up really liking Dax. At first, he's very standoffish, but underneath, he really just has a good heart, and you kind of get to see that more as the book goes on. The book does, though, touch on a few issues that may be tough for some people. So drugs, abandonment, death, or near death, so be warned of that. But all in all, I thought this was a great read. I'm glad that I picked it up, and it read pretty quickly. Then I have finished 2 more books. I'm realizing that this video is getting really long, so my apologies. I hope you have a cup with you. If you made it this long into the video, put up an emoji with your cup, and either a pumpkin if you're a pumpkin spice kind of person, or an apple if you're like the apple cider team instead. Clearly you can see that I'm pumpkin spice, so because I'm like apple something. Anyways, I did finish 2 more books. The first book was Hood. That is by Jenny Alder Moke. I'm so sorry. But I read this one as part of another reading challenge that I have on Storygraph. I will link my Storygraph profile down below. I'll try to do that so that we can be friends on there if you're on there. And it's August retelling was for Robin Hood, and you could either read the original version or you could read a retelling of it for the month of August, and I totally missed it. I didn't read it, so I thought I would catch up and do it in September. And I honestly, my oldest son is actually a big fan of Robin Hood. He has read the original, I believe, more than once, and I've not read it at all, but instead I decided to read a retelling. This one follows Isabel of Kirklees, I think that's how you say it. She is Maid Marian's daughter, and Maid Marian sends her off on a quest to find Robin Hood, and because there is trouble ensuing. Follow Isabel and her quest to find Robin Hood. She bumps into some of the merry men, and we get to visit them and their camp. She is on a mission because there is someone called the Wolf who's after her and her family, and so there are a lot of discoveries in there. Of course, in the blurb it says she is Robin Hood's daughter as well, so she struggles with that because in the beginning of the book she doesn't know that at all, or she doesn't realize that until a couple chapters into the book, I believe. I did not expect to like this book as much as I did. I thought it was a really fun, exciting read. I liked the little bit of romance that was put into it. This is also like a no spice book. The romance, I think, is an underlying to the main story of finding Robin Hood, her dealing with her issues of finding out that that is her dad and why she feels like he had never visited her, he was not in her life. There's more to follow with that, but I don't want to ruin the book for you. This book, though, if you're looking for a retelling, I would definitely recommend. It is a fun read to follow the daughter of the famous Robin Hood and Maid Marian. And then I actually wrapped up The Summer I Became a Nerd. This was by Leah Ray Miller, and this was I was just looking for another lighthearted read. This month, as you can see, I've just been picking up digital books because we're in the middle of a move, and it's just easier to keep track of. I just read my ebooks on my phone right now, although reading all these ebooks, now I kind of have this itch to buy an e-reader. The things that come to you when you're in the middle of a move, like that's probably not the best time to be buying stuff. But my only fear with the e-reader is, no, not fear, but my only concern is trying to find one that is compatible with the Libby and Hoopla apps, because I borrow a lot of books from the library online, and so that would be something that I absolutely needed. If you have an e-reader and you absolutely love it and is compatible with those, let me know in the comments down below. I've been trying to do a little research, but at the same time trying not to, because like I said, I just don't need to be making any purchases right now. Back to the book. Madeleine Summers is a 17-year-old cheerleader, and at first her character, you get introduced to her at a young age, and she is really into comic books and is laughed at for it. And because of that, she kind of hides it away and retransforms herself and becomes the popular cheerleader. But she hides this love of comics and this, what she would coin, a nerdy habit. And so it follows her throughout a summer, and summer is usually her time that she can be a little bit more relaxed about her comic book hobbies, because most of her friends are busy and not really, I guess they're not really hanging out together as much during the summer. Of course, something happens where her secret is threatened to be revealed, and we follow Madeleine along with a character, Logan. Logan is the son of, or Logan's family owns the comic book shop in town, and Logan is free with his comic book love. He doesn't hide it at all. Madeleine, it's something Madeleine actually says at one point that she admires in him, that he can just be so free in being himself. And so we follow these two characters, and of course what's going to ensue with the two of them. This is also a no spice book. It's called, I think, like a clean read or something like that, and I really loved it. It's considered, I believe, young adult. It is actually part of a duology. There's just two of them. We've just started the second book. Don't know if I'm gonna finish that before the month is over. If I do, I'll just tack that on to the next month's video or the next wrap-up video, because I know that this one is getting long. But if you're looking for a light, clean read, this one was really fun. I would definitely recommend it. Like I said, it is lighthearted and fun and just a great little escape. I'm gonna wrap up here my wrap up of books, Like I said, I'm reading the second book to this duology. And the second one, just a little peek, is so funny so far. I'm only a couple chapters in, but it is really funny and I'm really enjoying it. It follows another character that we meet in this first book here. In this season, I am just reading lighthearted books because I think mentally that's probably all I can handle right now. Although I did take a look and I might go down the Shadow of Bones hole. I'm not sure. That's not really, it's not a genre that I read a lot, but who knows? Who knows? But we're waiting to get settled before I can even jump into that situation. But thanks so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. Hopefully the next time I talk to you about books, it won't be so stark and we'll have bookshelf backup and books and all the fun things. Thank you for hanging out with me. If you haven't heard, or if you just need to be reminded, may I be the one to tell you that you are deeply and truly loved and so appreciated. I truly appreciate you taking your time out and spending it here with me watching these videos. Thanks so much for hanging out with me.